Hi guys, how's it going? It's been a little while since I made a video. Been pretty busy with well, my daughter's. She's finishing up the end of her school year, and I've been helping her with like projects and studying and things like that. And I also started a new job on Monday, and it's no big deal. Um, it's gonna be a pretty easy job compared to my last job. I was working 50 hours a week, and just really grew to hate that job. This job should be a lot easier, less hours, so I can spend more time with my daughter, helping her study, things like that. Um, so I'm slowly getting used to the new schedule, but hopefully Fridays I can keep some time open to make videos as well as clean records and do some thrift store shopping, things like that. But of course, I'm a junkie. I like to crate dig, see what I can find at the thrift store. So even with the new job, I find a little bit of time after work here and there to hit some thrift stores and the local regular shops. And of course, I've picked up some stuff since last time. It's mostly jazz, but I've got a few things that aren't jazz here. I'll start with those. Second and Charles, the big box store. It kind of copies half-price books. They're not making a big deal of it, but they're running their 4 for $10 sale. Their value vinyl, I think $5 or less. You can get 4 of those for $10, so $2.50 a piece. So I've been picking up a few things that I kind of kept an eye on, but I didn't want to pay full price. Picked up a couple Duran Duran singles, nice 12-inch singles here. They had these priced at like $10, which I thought was ridiculous. And then they knocked them down to 4, and with the sale, they're $2.50, so that's more reasonable. So this is Rio Part 1, Part 2, and My Own Way. These are UK pressings here. And the other one is Save a Prayer. And on the B side is the remix of Hold Back the Rain. And I always liked Duran Duran. They were kind of one of the first bands when I was not even a teenager, I think. I heard on the radio and it just sounded cool. It was different, It was a new sound. Nice songs. Always liked them. Alright, so we'll get into the jazz now. Occasionally I find some things I didn't notice before in this big Second and Charles store. They slowly work in some things that I guess people are trading in that I hadn't noticed before. And I've got a few that look like from the same collection, from the same guy. You can kind of see there. They got a marking property of Mr. Small, Terrence Small. So thank you, Terrence, or Terrence's grandkids, whatever, for turning in your records. So we got some Kai Winding here, or Winding, the trombone sound on Columbia, and Mr. Small actually wrote his name in there, in permanent marker, and I managed to get a lot of it off, but oh well. These are actually in pretty good shape. I think these are original 6i. Yeah, these are nice 6i pressings here. And some more trombone. J and Kai +6, the J and Kai Trombone Octet. J is J.J. Johnson, another famous trombone player, and of course Kai Winding. See again, he put his name on it on the front in marker. I don't know why people do that, but this guy's name stamped on the back too. This one looks like it's in the original plastic inner, and I think I've mentioned before, these things actually do a pretty good job of keeping these records from getting too scratched up. But the problem with these is once people try to put them back in the outer jacket, a lot of times they just kind of cram them in there, and I think that's how a lot of the seam splits happen. They're just trying to cram this thing and it gets all wrinkled and they just jam it in there. So once I clean it up, I'll replace that with a Blake inner sleeve and probably just pitch that plastic. I don't see any point keeping it. Another one, kind of a cheapy label, Crown. They don't do very good pressings, or they didn't do very good pressings. And they don't really give much info on the back about who played on it or recording date or any of that kind of stuff. It's just advertising their other releases. But this is a nice release with Chico Hamilton, featuring Paul Horn on sax. Of course, Paul Horn will go on later to do more of a kind of a new agey thing. Like, if you've ever seen Paul Horn Inside, where he's inside the Taj Mahal, I think, and then there's another one where he's inside the Great Pyramid in Giza, doing kind of a new age thing on flute. But originally he was a sax and flute guy, and he was part of Chico Hamilton's band here. Let's see. This was cool. I know I haven't seen this before in the store, so I grabbed it as soon as I saw it. I was kind of excited about this. This is, of course, Shorty Rogers and his Giants, Swinging Mr. Rogers on Atlantic. This is an early Atlantic pressing on the black label with silver print. I thought that was pretty cool. Of course, it's mono. I've got the companion album to this kind of somewhere. Like, there's a track on here called, I don't know if you can see it, but it's called Martians Go Home. And then I've got the album, which is Martians Come Back. Some good players on here, of course, the West Coast guys. Jimmy Giuffre on clarinet, Shelly Manne on drums. Classic West Coast jazz players there. Let's see, what else? Some later period modern jazz quartet. Blues on Bach, yeah, Blues on Bach. Atlantic, this is just, yeah, probably recognize the later, I think it's the late 70s Atlantic. Inner sleeve there, red and green label. I've seen this before and wasn't too excited about it, but for $2.50 I figured I'd pick it up. I like modern jazz quartet, that sort of third stream jazz meets classical, kind of chamber jazz. And then this one, I've seen this in the store for a while, and the cover is really what put me off, or I didn't pick it up. Of course, it's Jimmy Giuffre, great West Coast jazz player. I think he originally played sax and clarinet, and then later just took up clarinet only. This one he plays solely clarinet on, and yeah, this is I think 80s reissue, 1984 Atlantic reissue here. Really kind of generic cover art, but this is an album that came out in '56. Here's a little bit about the reissue series here. But it's actually a really good album, and they did a nice job with this reissue. They kept it in mono, they didn't try to process it to make it stereo, and it's a cool collection because he plays in a variety of different settings. One track where he plays just solo clarinet and kind of stomps his foot to get some rhythm going, and then some of the players, Bud Shank, Buddy Collette, Shelly Manne, of course, on drums, Dave Pell on English horn, Stan Levy on drums. So really cool collection here. I thought this was a compilation. That's part of the reason I didn't buy it before. I didn't realize until I read the liner notes what it was. It was actually just a straight up reissue of a classic early West Coast jazz album. They're really nice. It's like mint shape. And let's see, this one I'd seen before, but kind of just the cover turned me off for some reason. Kind of got a goofy 80s look to it, but some really good players on here. I guess Claude Bolling is kind of a classical guy, but he's done some compositions that incorporate jazz, or at least I think that's what the deal is. But this one's got Hubert Laws on flute, Claude Bolling is on piano, Shelly Manne on drums, Tommy Tedesco on guitar, a couple other guys. Really nice clean pressing. I figured I'd give it a shot. Kind of West Coast jazz meets classical sensibility. Nice. And let's see what else. Still in the shrink wrap, some Riverside jazz, or sort of jazz, I guess I'd say. Charlie Byrd, the guitarist. Charlie Byrd, the strings. Birdman, that's what it's called. This is from Riverside when they were part of ABC Records. Kind of a later label there. Not the classic Riverside label, but I think at this point they were part of the ABC family. Yeah, not a lot to say about that. Just some nice, kind of relaxing. A little bit of bossa nova on here, I guess. I've listened to some Charlie Byrd stuff on YouTube and here and there, and haven't been real excited about it. But I mean, it's nice stuff. It just doesn't super excite me. A couple more that I've kind of kept an eye on, I'd seen before, and wasn't sure about because they look like they're compilations or they're like live recordings of questionable quality, but I figured I'd pick them up for $2.50. Got some Coleman Hawkins and Lester Young together. This is looks like Italian pressing, Italian company. And these are recordings from 1946. And one of them features Coleman Hawkins and Lester Young, both on tenor. Buck Clayton on trumpet. And the other one is Lester Young, Coleman Hawkins, and Illinois Jacquet on tenor sax, Buck Clayton on trumpet. A couple other players I don't recognize. Let's see. It's really nice, clean pressing. Looks like the label is called Cicala. Siri Jazz Live. So I figure I'd give it a shot. I mean, it's kind of like picking up a bootleg recording of Led Zeppelin. This is sort of a bootleg recording of Coleman Hawkins and Lester Young. I just look at it that way. So, pretty cool. And speaking of Lester Young, this is a nice collection here. This is the Lester Young Story, Volume 4. Double LP set and a gatefold jacket. A lot of information on the inside here, of course. This one's a promo. And let's see what else. It's from the John Hammond collection. It says up the corner of the thing. John Hammond was one of the guys at Columbia from probably, I don't know, way back in the, I guess maybe 40s. I'd have to go back and read the book again, but big champion of jazz at the Columbia label. And one of the big names at Columbia Records. Nice white label promos here. So that's pretty cool for $2.50, $1.25 record. Definitely be giving that a listen. I didn't have any Lester Young, so between these two records I should get a good feeling for Lester Young. Some CTI. If I get CTI cheap, I'll pick it up. This is the Summer Jazz at the Holiday Bowl Volume 2, I think. Yeah, makes a gatefold, as most CTIs are. At least the early pressings. Haven't had a chance to listen to it, but you know, of course, it's got some great players: Hubert Laws, Grover Washington Jr., Stanley Turrentine, Deodato, Milt Jackson, Johnny Hammond, Joe Farrell, George Benson, Hank Crawford, Freddie Hubbard, Airto, Esther Phillips, Ron Carter, Jack DeGiannetti, Bob James. So should be interesting. I've seen those before and just kind of passed on them, but I figured I'd pick it up since it was on sale. This one I'd seen before and kind of passed on it. Just based on the cover, I didn't know it's from '73. So I thought it might be kind of cheesy or something, I don't know. But I figured I'd give it a shot. I was watching the Ken Burns jazz thing, and they were kind of talking about how, I guess, what, the late 50s? Jazz guys were kind of coming and going from Gil Evans' apartment, wanting him to arrange stuff for him. He was like the big jazz arranger everybody wanted to work with. Ended up working with Miles, of course. And so, just based on the fact that he was such a big deal and those great albums with Miles Davis, I gave it a shot, and it's actually pretty cool. It's kind of like someone wrote in the back here in pen. I don't know if you see it, but they wrote rockish jazz, which it kind of is. It's not really fusion, I would say, but it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of the big jazz arranged sound, and then he's got some, you know, electric guitar from Ted Dunbar, some cool synthesizer stuff from, I can't find it now, some Horowitz, David Horowitz. This is a radio station copy, the local college radio station, WRUF. And you can kind of see in the front, they had a white sticker here where they wrote down the dates they played the record. And so I think this passed through the Friends of the Library sale, someone gave it a shot, and then dropped it off back at 2nd and Charles to get some store credit, and now it ended up in my hands. And I probably ended up paying more than I would have if I just picked it up at the damn Friends of the Library sale in the first place, but that's life. This one is pretty cool. This one, let's see. I'd seen this before, and someone had marked it down. Let me take out the jacket here. It was marked like 20 bucks or something, but somebody marked it down to 4 bucks. They've been doing that at 2nd and Charles. They've been marking a lot of stuff down with just these little yellow stickers, I think, that say $4, and they just slap them on top of their regular sticker. And so from 20 down to 4, and now with the sale, $2.50. Of course I was going to pick it up. This is on Soul Note, kind of the sister label to Black Saint out of Italy. The Beaver Harris 360-degree music experience is called Beautiful Africa. And I didn't know anything about Beaver Harris. I did recognize Grachon or Gracon Moncour from his, like, some Blue Note dates, playing on some other people's stuff. Seen him around as a side player in other people's music. And it's a cool label. Stuff I've got on Black Saint I really enjoyed, so I figured I'd give it a shot. It's kind of gotten early. I've seen some Soul Note stuff before, but it's got like a different label, different looking label. I think this is actually the second release that came out on Soul Note Records. This is SN 1002, so I think it would have been the very second release. And it's just in beautiful shape. Played it a few times. It's kind of got the spiritual jazz sound, kind of like Pharoah Sanders, Alice Coltrane type sound at times a little more raucous, but really enjoyable listening, and excellent playing. Oh, and I should point out, after I looked it up, Ken McIntyre, the guy on alto sax, bassoon, flute, he's a pretty big name in jazz. I didn't realize he'd done an early recording with why am I drawing a blank here? God damn it. Eric, this guy here, Ken McIntyre, kind of a big name in jazz, going back quite a ways. He done an early record with Eric Dolphy, and I guess a lot of other dates. I just didn't recognize his name for some reason. Excellent player. And then this one I was kind of intrigued by. Sounded like a jazz group, the Bob Prince Quintet. I can see a guy playing, in that little picture, see a guy playing vibes, a guy on guitar. Definitely looks like some jazz stuff. I didn't know who Bob Prince was, but I did recognize on the back a guy by the name of Joe Puma on guitar. Excellent 50s kind of session jazz player. He played with Herbie Mann, I know. So I figured I'd give it a shot. And it's interesting pressing. It's I'm sure you can't see this probably, but it's got a nice flat edge. There's a label, it's Harmony, which is like Columbia's kind of cheapo label. Reissue or stuff they just didn't want to put out at full price, I guess. But this is actually, I don't know if you can hear it. It's not vinyl, I don't think. I think it's styrene, kind of like they pressed a lot of the early 45 RPM singles on with 7-inch. So it's kind of weird. It's not floppy like vinyl. Probably gonna wear out quicker, but I'm not gonna be playing this a lot. But yeah, it's kind of straight ahead jazz quintet type stuff. Nothing too exciting, but it's just kind of cool. I mean, I've seen the Flat Edge records. I've got like an old Blue Note 10-inch that's got that, but this is from 1958. It seems like for the most part that was phased out by 58. I think it might be something to do with the fact that it's styrene, that they didn't really press the little lip. Like, it doesn't even have the little lip here, the groove guard lip they call it, where if you stack the records the tops won't touch each other and scuff. So I think it might just be due to the fact it was styrene. But I saw online on Discogs, they actually said that Columbia Records at the plant where they press these harmonies actually pressed stuff in styrene up to I think about 1960. That was kind of weird. And having listened to that and seeing who Bob Prince was and doing a little research on him, I realized I'd seen another one of his records at the same store, but under the name Robert Prince. Robert Prince's New York export Opus Jazz from Ballets USA. I don't really know what the whole deal is with this thing. Robert Prince's, yeah, and the other side is ballet music from Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story. Conducted by Robert Prince, album produced by George Avakian, big name at Columbia Records, did a lot of stuff with like Keith Jarrett and can't think of the other guy, the sax guy that Keith used to play with. But anyway, a nice Warner Brothers label. I have a lot of stuff on early Warner Brothers, but a really cool label. Fortunately, it's not stereo, it's mono, but still very cool, and this is in really nice shape. Listened to it once already. It's nice, kind of kind of like classical meets jazz. It's nice stuff. It's jazzy enough for me to enjoy. And let's see, what else did I pick up? Some Fats Waller, the pianist. This is RCA Victor. I guess a collection of his earlier recordings, obviously. Doesn't have a whole lot of info I can see on the back, but I figured I'd give it a shot on it. Don't think I've owned any Fats Waller of any sort on vinyl, so that's kind of cool. Early RCA Victor, nothing really that special with the label. Just your typical mono RCA Victor label. And what else? Some Oscar Peterson. I've got a fair amount of Oscar Peterson already, but for $2.50 for this one, I figured I'd pick it up. It's in fairly rough shape, but it's kind of cool because it's on the Limelight label. I think I've got one or two other records on this label. And it's Oscar Peterson Blues Etude, featuring Ray Brown, Sam Jones, and Louis Hayes. Let's see, I'll show you the inner label here. This one has some stickers on the front here with some notes about what tracks they like, things like that. Kind of cool. Figure I'll give it a shot for $2.50. And one here just for fun, kind of. This is, I like the cover. It's got kind of a foil silver cover with different colors on it. This is X-15. X-15 and Other Sounds of Rockets, Missiles, and Jets, with narration by Johnny Magnus. And nice stereophonic, kind of enjoy the your new stereophonic hi-fi system, listening to rockets and jets and stuff. This is on Reprise, and it's actually a DJ sample, it says. DJ samples, promotional copies, and it's got the specifications on the X-15. I think that was like an early kind of supersonic or high altitude jet, something like that. It's kind of beat up, but it's cool because it's on a nice white label, Reprise label here. Figure I'd give it a shot, could be fun. Add that to my stereo fun records. And then I went the other day to a place I don't go to very often, and I always forget the name of this place. Damn it, I forgot the name again. Anyway, it's kind of like a thrift store, but not quite. Been there before, bought a couple records. There's no price on it. You know, you get to the counter, it's kind of like, well, what do you want to pay for it? And I said, well, you take $1. And last time I was there, like, well, we normally get $3 for records. I'm like, okay, well, kind of reluctantly paid. I bought 2 records then. This time I was kind of iffy, but they had a bunch of new records. I only stop in there about once a month to see what's new, but they had a whole bunch of new records. Not new, but new to the store there. And I found some interesting stuff, so I kind of reluctantly picked out 3 of them. Came to the front counter, and the lady's like, ooh, records, wow, cool, you people still listen to records and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm like kind of waiting, okay, well, how much are they? And she's like, well, how about $1 each? And I'm like, yes. I said, well, you know what, for $1 each I'll buy 1 more. So I grabbed another on the way out. But I got some neat stuff. Some Gabor Szabo, Bacchanal. After he left Impulse Records, he did like 2 or 3 for this label, Sky. Yeah, he's got a weird style. He plays a lot of the kind of 60s kind of rock tracks that were popular at the time. Sunshine Superman's on here. This one's stamped on the inside, DJ copy. Not for sale. I figured I'd give it a shot. I've got geez, like 4 or 5 Szabo records by now. They're pretty good. He's not my favorite guitarist, but I like his stuff. There's the Sky label. So that was kind of cool. It's back in the sleeve. Let's see what else. Oh, this is I recognize this by the cover. Of course, that's Chet Baker. And this is a more recent record than I realized. It's called, let's see, it's hard to read, Once Upon a Summertime, and it's on Artist House. Artist House is the label. Now, I've got a couple of things on Artist House. I think some Ornette Coleman and maybe James Blood Ulmer. It's a really cool label, and I think most, if not all of them, when they came out, they came with like a little booklet of like extra artwork or kind of the sheet music or notes and photos and stuff. Unfortunately, this one was missing it. And actually the gatefold was had gotten wet and it was stuck together. So, and the whole spine is just chewed up to hell. So I didn't really want to pay more than $2 or $3 for it, but for $1, you know, nice deal. Managed to peel the gatefold open without too much damage along the edge here. That's the only place that was really stuck together. But it's got a lot of great photos of Chet Baker through his career, from being a nice looking young kid to unfortunately what he ended up looking like towards the end, after years of, I think, heroin addiction and rough living. This one is recorded in '77 in New York. Chet Baker, he's got Ron Carter on bass, Mel Lewis on drums, Howard Danko on piano, Gregory Herbert on tenor sax. I haven't heard of those last 2 guys, but definitely figure I'd give it a shot for $1. And some nice classical Verve. Everybody probably knows this record, Staying Gats, featuring Antonio Carlos Jobim. Of course, it's got the girl from Ipanema and all the classic bossa nova stuff. It's a nice stereo pressing, gatefold. I was kind of excited to find this. It's in pretty good shape. It's a little rough, but yeah, I'll pick up any Verve jazz that's in pretty good shape. I really like that label. They did a nice job with their recordings and their presentation and all that. This one was pretty cool. I've never seen this before. This is Herbie Mann, and it's not the later stuff on Atlantic, although he's rocking the shirtless look here. This is a compilation from '76 from Bethlehem Records. They were one of the early kind of West Coast jazz labels, and these are recordings from, I think, 1956. Very early in Herbie Mann's career. He'd been playing before that, I think, but from a couple albums he did in '56, one where he's playing with an orchestra conducted by a couple different guys, and the other with Joe Puma on guitar, I mentioned him earlier, Whitey Mitchell on bass, and Herbie Wasserman on drums. I only know Joe Puma. But pretty interesting stuff. It kind of notes on the back that Herbie Mann realized that, of course he was one of the first guys to put the flute in jazz, realized that, you know, if you're going to make arrangements or set up a band with flute playing jazz, you need to have kind of more quiet, mellow, pretty arrangements. It can't be like loud, brash stuff. It just doesn't work with the flute. And so these are all kind of laid back. Almost easy listening at times with the orchestra, but it's kind of nice to listen to some of that stuff and relax. Of course, later on he got more into the sort of rocky sound with his Atlantic stuff. So that's it for most of my thrift store stuff. I did pick up some other stuff. I'm going to do that in a separate video because it's all stuff in a different genre. So just thought I'd throw together videos since I got a little free time and it's Friday. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time.